what is, can I move this down? The giant animal, extinct animals the Polynesians saw, bro. Obviously me, I'm like half Polynesian, bro. My mom is Maori, obviously from New Zealand. I'm from New Zealand, and apparently there was a lot of big animals back in those days, or just, well, yeah, giant animals. Let's say it's giant animals. I know of moa, obviously lawnmower. Uh, dodos. I don't know if they're real, bro. Or is this shit from just from a movie? I don't know. Dinosaurs, maybe, possibly. And also, I heard of a rumor there's like a giant eagle, the biggest eagle ever, pretty much ever, was from New Zealand. And did these guys see it? Did they not see it? Let's find out. Apparently, this guy here knows all of that. So let's see what you're saying, bro. Is this guy accurate?
New Zealand is a land that's pretty hard to beat in the nature department, and it boasts some of the most unique wildlife on the entire planet.
Hello? Can I move
After
this?
all, literally 40% of its species can only be found there, and many of them are what we would consider odd, or at least not normal.
The goat, bro. This is what we all are named
that's
after.
what you get.
If you're from New Zealand, you're definitely named after this animal right here.
There. And many of them are what
The goats, oh not goat, the kiwi, if we're being honest, bro. The kiwi, the myth, the legend, the one and only kiwi, bro. Have you seen one of these in person? I have not, bro. And I've been in New Zealand my whole life. I don't think I've ever seen one of those. I'm pretty sure I've never seen one of those. But I've seen a weka, bro. And I've actually eaten a weka before. That shit was bad, bro.
we would consider odd,
not good
or
at
at
all.
least not normal. But I guess that's what you get when you isolate a bunch of islands
What
for
is
over
this
20
bird?
million years, and then throw in some unique geography and a lot of volcanism.
Oh,
So
volcanoes?
it may not be a surprise to hear then that New Zealand of the past was
What did I say, bro? Lawnmower, right here, and the giant eagle. We got
even
both of
crazier
them.
than today.
And that bird over there. I don't know what that is. If you know,
But
bro,
the
let me know.
surprising thing is you don't actually have to go that far back to see it. And actually, modern humans got to experience a lot of its now extinct wonders. Though, only a specific small group of humans, namely, the Maori.
Yeah!
The Maori were, as far as we know, the first humans to have inhabited New Zealand, seeing
That's
that no
me, bro.
settlements before
That's
theirs
not
are
me,
known
that's
of
like my
through concrete evidence.
my
And while an exact date
grandparents, this was them, bro. They were out in the jungle forest on the waka, going through the forest, hunting moas, eating
is
good.
unknown, it's thought that they arrived no earlier than 1250 AD.
Okay, probably more than my grandparent, like great grandparents, but definitely related. Definitely
Other words,
related, bro. I can
possibly
see the resemblance.
775 years ago, which, to put that into perspective, was the same time when the Eighth Crusade was raging on halfway across the world.
What?
So in the grand scheme of things, this is like yesterday. And yet, the Maori had
What?
unknowingly stumbled upon a lost world, encountering some animals that are a bit hard to believe were still around in the medieval ages.
Really?
Currently, the country is one essentially ran by birds. And yet somehow these animals once held even more power, so you could say. And you wouldn't have seen them just buzzing around in the sky, but also stomping along on the ground too.
Bro, they look like if you know there's one bird from Australia, ebu. I think it's called the ebu. I've seen one in real life. They're actually kind of short. But these birds, I heard from a rumor that they were like 7 feet tall, damn near through the ceiling. Like a motherfucking Victor Wembanyama from the, if you know Wemby, you know. Or who else is tall? Like Steven Adams. That's a good New Zealand reference right there. Steven Adams. You know the guy on the milk, the little milk bottles? Steven Adams, that guy. So they're apparently the same height as him, which is crazy to think of. And if that bird is that tall, how motherfucking big is this one? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Let's
As
find
it was
out.
here that a group of giant flightless birds resided for millions of years, the Dinornithiforms,
The
or more
what?
commonly known as the moas.
Yeah, he definitely made that name up. Dynamythosaurs? Are we serious, bro? We rocking with moas. What the hell's a dinosaur? Yeah.
When humans first arrived, there was not just
I've never
one,
heard this
but
word in my
9
life.
different
That
species of
shit pissed me
moas
off, bro.
that called the islands home. Overall, they shared
Moa.
a few key general traits, including relatively huge bodies for a bird,
Here we go.
forward-facing heads like an overgrown kiwi,
Yep.
reduced wings, and stocky
Whoa.
legs. And they were
So this is the comparison to an ostrich. You know, ostrich, or was that an emu? They said a Stuiocamelus, bro. What the hell is a camulus?
found on both
I
of them
swear half these names, bro, this guy definitely made them up because I've never heard of these in my lifetime.
in islands in virtually every area, and would possibly be the first thing you'd encounter, seeing they were strong in not only size, but also numbers, with population estimates being as high as 2.5 million. And reflecting this, paleontologists have so far recovered hundreds of thousands of bones belonging to them. Of the 9 identified types, paleontologists ended up distinguishing 2 distinct kinds of moas, the lesser and greater ones, who between them range from being the size of a turkey all the way to a fair-sized lion.
Whoa! 188 kgs, the size of a lion. We talking about Simba from Lion King, not Simba. What's his dad's name? Mufasa from Lion King. That's the size comparison they comparing number 9 to.
Yes, you heard that right. Lion, with a king among them having been the
bro.
South Island giant moa,
Oh
known by the
hell
Maori.
no! If I see that thing, bro, we low-key gotta bring these things back, bro. We gotta revive them somehow. You know, I don't know how they do it these days, but I've seen they can revive a certain like species of animals. You gotta add this one to the list, bro. We need the moas back, bro. We need to see that
Yes.
shit. I would love to
Moa
see one of these in
nui.
person.
Not only was it the biggest moa, clocking in at 250 kilograms or 550 pounds,
How do they know this?
but it was
bro?
also
It's not like they had scales or weight distribution back in those days. There's no way they could measure the weight of this bird. This has got to be cat, bro. This guy, I don't know if
one
we
of the
can believe
tallest birds
everything he's
ever.
saying.
And when stretching its neck, it would have registered in at a whopping 3.6 meters or
What
11
the
foot,
hell?
10 inches tall,
we
making it
serious
not
right
just the
now?
14th heaviest bird of all time, but also likely the tallest, only possibly beat by none other than its very own twin, the
Really,
northern
bro?
giant moa, which was a
Northern
bit
giant
smaller
moa.
overall, but had a body plan that may have made it a smidge taller. And besides the greater moas, even the lesser moas, despite their name, were still giant by current standards. And given this group's somewhat off-putting appearances, you may think these guys were terror bird-like killers. Yet in reality, they were something of gentle giants, preferring plants over meat. Specifically, we know from fossilized contents that they feasted on a variety of not only plant species, but also plant parts, including the leaves
Okay.
from both trees and shrubs, as well as the twigs, using their large
Yeah, I know they would be eating good then. If they only eat plants, trees, things of that nature, I know in New Zealand, they would definitely be eating good because, bro, you go 1 kilometer that way, 2 kilometers that way, you're gonna find a thick jungle of just plants and this type of activity, bro. A moa will be living good out here until, obviously, until the bros, the father pulled up and then they no longer existed. GG's, boas.
beaks to shear off vegetation
G's.
and acting in many ways like large grazing mammals found elsewhere, like
Oh,
horses,
like
for
horses
example.
or cows.
Fossils further tell
Okay.
us that while the two islands shared some species, most were distinct to the north or south, and inhabited many different habitats, including forests, mountains, coastal areas, you name it. And those big legs you see, well, those might have been used for defense, as Maori stories state that along with being
Oh.
swift runners, they could also defend themselves with vicious kicks,
Ah!
utilizing their powerful muscles and large claws. And
Bro,
so,
I'm not gonna lie, if you were a Māori warrior back in the day and you died to a moa, not gonna lie, your whole family would be disgraced and disrespected, even kicked out of the damn iwi, bro. I'm not gonna lie, that's probably something that would happen. That sounds accurate, bro. I could never allow one of my family members to get killed or kicked by one of these birds and die, bro. Like you gotta survive that shit, or you getting excommunicated from the whānau, bro. I'm sorry. Like
with all this
we
combined,
cannot
they
associate
were
with
quite
you
the bird.
no more, bro.
So it does make you wonder, how could 9 different moas, and really an entire order, disappear in under 1,000 years? Well, we only really need to ask ourselves.
Really, bro?
As the current consensus
got
is that
monkey
while they
eating
were
apple.
quick, they could not outrun the Maori, who almost immediately started to hunt them upon arrival, utilizing spears and traps. And it seems that every kind got not only the pointy end of the stick, but also the short end. And they were often killed for not
they-
only their plentiful meat, but also their bones, which
they
could
had
then be
chicken
used to
wings, bro.
manufacture
So they had literally chicken wing from these animals. Also, so them folks were eating good back in the day. So we don't need to worry about that. They were obviously eating good. Had like literally chicken wings. You know?
tools such as ornaments, fish hooks,
I wonder how this thing even kills somebody though. Like I understand I've had one before of I haven't used it, but how do you even kill somebody with this little piece of wood, bro, or bone that was made out of? Like really, bro? What is that even used for? I thought it was just used for like decoration. There's no way you can kill a human or a moa, yet alone moa, with one of these. What are they called? I forgot the name of that thing.
points, and so on. Amazingly enough, we also know from Maori tradition how they like to cook the moa, typically using a
Hangi?
kind of wood
Hangi?
coming from the koromiko to flavor the meat. And then, in
Oh.
addition to direct killings by humans, man-made fires aided in the moa's decline through habitat loss, while dogs brought over may have also eradicated huge
Hey, and that makes sense. Nowadays, you see, if you go to like chicken, maybe KFC, you see a lot of either islanders or Maori folks in there, bro. That's like the main population of KFC, bro. And it makes sense. They ate all the moas, all their chicken got extinct, and now they move on to the next thing that came. Obviously, the colonization British and the US, they brought KFC. And now that's the new Moas, bro. KFC is the new Moas. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, bro.
Which all culminated in a relatively quick downfall for these giants. And by as early as the 1500s, all may have been wiped out. Now it's hard to say for sure the exact time frame of their downfall, as dating to specific years can be challenging. And there's actually two species that might have held on for extended time.
Really?
Those being the broad-billed moa and our friend, the giant southern moa, who based on dated bones found in Canterbury, possibly persisted until 1952. Although the 1750s is generally thought to be its last curtain call. And in recent times, more support has come out that all moas may have actually disappeared in just 100 years.
Really?
This being said, ever since their disappearance, many people have come forth with reported sightings of their prolonged survival. And the 1800s in particular seemed to be a hot time for this, with multiple European explorers having claimed to see emu-like birds on the shore of the islands, or that they had stumbled upon absolutely massive bird tracks. Yet these claims were never fully verified. Meanwhile, the Maori themselves have also...
Bro, who the hell is this? Where did they get this drawing from? And how does bro's hair even look? Like, it's not even curly, bro. You obviously see someone has curly hair that have a big, like a, what's it called, like a fro. This guy's hair is just straight, bro. It's just straight pointing out. I never knew they were rocking this hairstyle back in the damn near 1300s. That's crazy, bro. That's
to the
crazy.
1770s, they could still
That's
sometimes encounter
right
the
there.
occasional moa
I see
when
folks
hunting.
rocking that hairstyle
But again,
today.
no concrete proof of this.
I guess that's where it came from.
And even now, the occasional author likes to stipulate that tiny populations of smaller moas may continue to survive in remote areas such as Southwestland and Fiordland. However,
did he just
the
say
overall...
they still exist to this day? Really, bro? What country are you from? Because I've been in the woods, I've been in the forest, I've been in the bush, bro. And I've never seen any evidence of one of these birds existing.
consensus is that these moas are sadly long gone.
Yeah, they're gone,
And
bro.
in their downfall, they did not end up leaving Earth alone, as their disappearance from the food chain eventually led to the extinction of another animal, a fellow bird.
Really?
But this one was a bit meaner. It was before humans, the undisputed apex predator
There we
in
go.
New Zealand, the
Here we
Haast
go.
eagle. Prior to our presence, there was actually only 3 terrestrial mammals on the islands, all rather small bats,
What the hell?
resulting in birds like the moas enjoying extreme insular gigantism due to the lack of competition. And the Haast eagle got in on this too, only difference being that where moas took the role of herbivorous mammals, the eagles took the job of a lion, and it swelled to extreme sizes. In fact, the Haast eagle is the biggest eagle we currently know of to have ever existed, which is funny considering its closest relative is an eagle literally...
They're the confirmed hit right here, right now. This eagle was the biggest that ever existed, ever. In the history of eagles, history of birds, history of eagles. That hot,
the little eagle,
Haast
after
eagle.
its small stature. And island gigantism certainly did a number on the Haast eagle, as
I wonder how
fossils
big it
suggest
was,
a
bro.
maximum wingspan of 3 meters or 10 feet across.
Do you think Wembanyama has a bigger wingspan than this eagle? 3 meters, 10 feet across? No, 10 feet. Okay, so that even has a bigger wingspan than Wembanyama, bro. And you know, Wemby, that guy's literally a giant in real life. These eagles were even bigger than him, so we can't even compete, bro. They
And
got
a
us.
weight that's
They
more
got
than
us,
double
bro.
that of the current largest extant eagle.
Really?
So basically,
How
it's
much do
about
they
as
weigh?
close to the Lord of the Rings eagles we'll ever get. Well, I hope at least. But despite these impressive
of the Rings
numbers,
eagles?
it actually had proportionally small wings, leading paleontologists to hypothesize that its reduced wings was an adaptation for navigating densely forested areas. Thankfully for many of the animals on the island, the Haast eagle, despite their ability to fly, was mainly restricted to just the southern island and small parts of the northern island, where in the absence of competition, it held sole reign over the moas, who were its main prey, along with other larger birds, which it killed by utilizing its large and immensely powerful legs, plus some nasty long claws
massive.
or talons that could
Holy.
dig deep into.
Look at the size of that hand, and then look at the size of the bird's hands. And that claw. That shit could go all the way through your hand, bro. Like, look how long that is. Oh my god. Imagine grabbed by one of these, especially like on your neck or like on your arm, bro. That shit would dig all the way through. You have no chance against one of these, bro. We lucky they don't survive no more. Shit.
Moa's body.
Yeah, we lucky, bro. Like in New Zealand, obviously we don't have any predators. Okay, we have that was the wrong word to use. Not predator. Eagles, like bird type of things. If we had those, yeah, bro, it's over.
Even though it was designed to kill moas, it still wasn't a small task, seeing that its prey could be multiple, or even dozens of times larger, than itself, which thus led to it evolving a pretty, disturbing way of killing. You see, the Haast eagle didn't have a beak like those of its kind. Rather, it had one that resembled the beak of a condor vulture, which, if you don't know, utilizes a specialized mouth to tear rotten flesh.
Ugh.
However, in the case of our eagle friend, researchers think it wielded its beak as a finisher, so to speak, striking and tearing into the moa's vulnerable areas and causing death through blood loss and evisceration.
Oh my,
And a more
that's
detailed
disgusting,
analysis on
bro.
its hunting technique suggested that a host eagle would first spot a moa, then slam into it at high speeds, knocking it down, while using its talon to restrain the poor victim, before finishing the moa off with catastrophic beak strikes. So not a great way to go.
Huh.
And we know for a fact that it was very successful at doing this, as many moa bones have been found full of puncture marks that were clearly made by this massive eagle. And currently, researchers believe that the host eagle preyed on every kind of moa on the island, and that at any given time, 4,500 breeding pairs could have called New Zealand home, which is a bit too abundant for comfort, if you ask me. And for possibly over 1 million years, the
What
host eagles
is that,
enjoyed total
bro?
reign
Is that a
over their
hippo?
domain. Apart
We don't even have hippos in New Zealand, and they got them somehow. So there's no way they flew to another continent, maybe Australia, to get hippos,
which
bro.
was eventually
I don't know if
crashed
they have
by
hippos
us.
there.
They
That's-
had been
that's
isolated
crazy.
for the rest of the world for an exceedingly long time, and now they
Okay.
suddenly had to share the island with the most dominant predator in history. And soon enough, the Maori and eagles
Who was that
found
guy,
themselves
bro?
at a
There's
crossroad.
no way this guy was
competing
a
over
dominant
prey.
predator, bro.
Naturally,
There's no way this dude back here. Who is he?
time. And now they suddenly had to share the island with the most dominant predator in history.
Who is he? I've never heard of him, and yet he's apparently the one of the most famous predators ever. The only predators I can think of off the top of the head is like EDP. Yeah, that's literally it, bro. I can't think of another one. Maybe Diddy, Drake. I don't know, those type of people. But apparently this guy is even more famous than that. How? I don't
And soon
know.
enough, the Maori and eagles found themselves at a
I didn't know that.
crossroad competing over prey. Naturally, the Maori held an edge thanks to their adaptability and weapons. Yet, they were still very impressed by the giant killer eagle, and cave art left by them depicts the host eagle in numerous scenarios. Not to mention that this beast was legendary enough to literally become a part of the Maori's own legends. Or at least
Really?
this is a possibility,
Oh!
as it's generally agreed that the monstrous bird, Poakai, from Maori mythology,
They fed
was
the babies
based
to the
directly
bird?
off of the host eagle. And certain aspects about the Poakai seems to suggest that the eagle did not go down without a fight, as not only was it reported to hunt moas, but also kill the occasional human.
Oh,
here
damn,
and
look at
there.
that claw to the chest, bro. That's just lethal. Like, that's a whole, like, in your heart, bro. Like, there's no way you're living life after this step. Your life is officially over at this point, bro. I look at that shit. God damn. Oh,
One idea
bro.
being that small defenseless children might have been attacked when the opportunity
Oh,
arose.
nah, they took
I mean,
the
after
kids.
all, it was designed to kill lion-sized prey, so a small human, especially one without weapons, doesn't seem like a far stretch. However, not even the stuff of legends could survive the prowess of mankind. But it wasn't that Maori necessarily killed these eagles off, but rather that they killed what they ate, and thus eventually starving them. Additionally, pesky controlled fires and the introduction of Polynesian rats, which ate their eggs, all combined to drastically lower host eagle numbers. And not so long after the demise of the moas, they too had vanished, with the
GG's.
latest estimates
Moas
suggesting
gone,
an extinction
eagles
date
gone,
between
Avengers.
1440 and
What?
14.
They had Avenger birds. That's crazy. What, like the Hawkeye? No, Hawkeye? The Hawkeye, bro. What's the name? The new Captain America confirmed. Avengers. I like that little Easter egg right there. That's kind of cool.
45, so nearly 200 years after humans first encountered them. And while they might not have survived long after human arrival, the fact that more than 500 years later, stories about them have persisted just serve as a testament to their awesomeness. And you know what else is awesome, or would be awesome, is hitting that oh so beautiful subscribe button.
Alright, bro. We're not
I
doing
mean,
that.
it's basically calling your name.
Alright,
So
calm.
clearly,
Move
birds
on to
really
the
got
next
the
one.
short
We
end of the
not doing
stick.
that shit, bro.
But this does kind of add up as they make up the most vertebrates
Kiwis,
in New
here we
Zealand.
go.
And ultimately,
Where
dozens of
is the
species
kiwi
died
at?
around the same time, or not long after, the moas and host eagle went extinct, which includes multiple kinds of ducks, geese, rails.
I don't know how loud that was, bro.
And while this is
might have been
certainly
too loud.
tragic, many of these animals are still found elsewhere in the world through related species. Yet, there was one more family of birds who were around, which are now gone for good, the adsbills. While
What?
not as famous as the moas or host eagle, the adsbills were very strange birds that
Really?
at some point had called both the southern and northern island home, being represented by two types that were native to each part respectively. And when fossils belonging to them were
Bro, this is a whole historical history listed, bro. If you're in school right now, if you're watching in history class or what's it called, social studies, bro, get that shit out of here, bro. Come and watch this shit. This is you'll learn a whole lot more from watching this than in those classes. I've watched what? How long has this been? 11 minutes, bro. I've watched 11 minutes of this. I've learned more in that 11 minutes that I have in my whole lifetime. Social study, history class, any of that shit, bro. If you're in school right now, quit school, bro. Watch this motherfucking stream or watch the video, bro. Just watch it, bro. You're gonna learn a whole lot more.
It was actually thought that they represented a brand new
I'm gonna start doing this like every week, watching some historical history, learning some history, bro. And if you want to learn, definitely should watch. Definitely should tune in, bro. Tap in. But
eventually, thanks to sheer luck, more bones belonging to this family were located, including some which contained DNA, allowing researchers to deduce that it was no moa, but rather a now extinct gruiform, making cranes a close relative to them, and suggesting that Adsbills had simply convergently evolved a body plan similar to that of the moa. However, the body is where their similarities ended, as the Adsbills were something of a weird mashup of varying extinct birds, having the physique of a moa, the wings of a dodo bird, and the beaks of a terror bird, being fairly broad, sharp, and narrowing out towards the front with a curve, which is, let's just say, not a good sign for coexisting animals. And sure enough, based off of isotopic analysis, the conclusion was that Adsbills like to keep their diets mixed, including both plant material and animals. They were a bit more of a generalist than the host bird, and thus thankfully for their coexisting animals, not as voracious with the meat portion of their food, with that part consisting of mainly large invertebrates, lizards, tuataras, and smaller birds.
The only question I have is, what do these birds taste like? They're obviously extinct for a reason, so it must taste pretty damn good, bro. A lot of people obviously ate this bird that went extinct, and
originally,
so these must have been some of the best tasting food that they had tried.
This family was long gone before the Europeans.
I need to try
this.
I need to try it.
But the discovery of their bones and middens, which are essentially domestic waste dumps, showed that the Maori definitely encountered them, and that they experienced the same hunting pressures of the Moas.
Look at how tall that shit is, bro.
Eventually ended in their demise. And despite not being as well studied as the moas or eagles, it's currently thought that the last of the Adsbills disappeared around 1445 AD, hence before European explorers, and leading to a lack of any documented sightings. And so with that, it's a pretty sure thing that these guys are now long gone, ending a presence on the island which possibly spanned 19 million years, according to some research. And likewise, we can say quite confidently.
Well, what is this video he keeps showing? There's like one moa and an eagle in a what is this, ancient museum history exhibit? I don't know. What is this place?
All gone too.
What is However, this thing he keeps showing?
There are some animals that have disappeared, which are presumed to be extinct, that might actually still be out there. One being our very first mammal on the list,
who
also represented one of the only 3 bats to call New Zealand home. This is the New Zealand greater short-tailed bat.
My bro! Unlike if this thing is not extinct, please extinct it now. We do not ever want to see this thing.
Animals mentioned
come see the light of day, if you know what I mean.
Maori
like this shit, stay in the cave, please, bro, please.
But the introduced Polynesian rats,
they said they left it alone.
They sure didn't. And it's believed that beforehand, this bat was extremely widespread. However, after a few hundred years of dealing with the rats, their numbers and range were reduced significantly. And when Europeans showed up, they could only be found on the islands next to Stewart Island, where the rats were absent. Here, they continued to live for hundreds of years, but still experienced a slow decline due to dwindling reproduction rates. And by the 20th century, they had but one refuge left, the Taukihipa, or Big South Cape Island. It was also here that the European researchers first started paying attention to them, with one scientist capturing and studying a few, from which he reported that for bats, they did not like to fly high at all, going no more than 3 meters or 10 feet off the ground. Another scientist reported that compared to other bats, it crawled around on the floor far more often, acting almost like a land-dwelling animal instead of a flyer, bro. Which is a well-known trait.
Yeah, keep that shit hidden, bro. We do not want to see that thing
in the family it belonged to.
If I ever see one of them, I'll stomp that shit to death, bro. I do not want to see one of those. That should look like an evil horror movie type of activity, bro. I don't want that shit in my life at all. Keep it away, bro.
And
keep
are only represented today by one last species, the lesser short-tailed bat, a cousin to our friend. Now, their knack for life on the floor is thought to have come from the lack of terrestrial animals on the island. And in addition to this, other odd traits were found, including the ability to fold its wing into a leathery membrane when not in use, and also additional projections on their claws, allowing them to climb and dig better. And due to its prolonged survival, we also know that this lost bat had dark brown fur, dark wings.
That is one of the most ugly things I've seen, bro. That thing right there. So ugly,
and an
bro.
omnivorous diet consisting of not only insects, like flies, beetles, and moths, but also fruit, flowers, nectar, and pollen. And for a bit, things actually seemed to be stabilizing for the greater shorttail, until that is in 1963, when ships accidentally introduced rats into its last safe haven.
Well. So the colonizers brought rats, and
Leading to its decimation
since then, well, I'm happy they brought rats, to be honest, so that this thing doesn't exist no more. Because
and
I
apparent
would rather have
eradication,
rats
with
running around than
1965
one
being
of
the
those
last time
things.
anyone saw it.
That's
and resulting
absolutely
in it being
disgusting,
classified as extinct.
horrifying.
However, in recent
Horrible
years,
horror
hope has sprung
movie,
up once more
horrifying.
for our flying friends. As in the 1990s and 2000s, eyewitness reports of its presence started to
What did he say?
classified as extinct, with 1965 being the last time anyone saw it, and resulting in it being classified as extinct.
What did he say?
However, in recent years, hope has sprung up once more for our flying
Hope
friends.
has sprung
As in the
up.
1990s,
Yeah, we don't want to see this thing back. Why are you hoping? Why is anybody hoping that this thing comes back to life? What does it do for us, bro? Other than look like the most haunting like image you can think of in your dreams or something, bro. This is what it is. What? Who was hoping for this shit?
and 2000s,
Definitely psychopath killer type of activity. And Diddy, bro. Diddy's
eyewitness
definitely
reports
hoping
of its
to see one of
presence
these, bro.
started to arise.
Got to
Eventually
be one of the
leading to a
freakiest
certified expedition
human beings
that actually
alive
reported echolocations,
to
which were
hope
remarkably
this thing comes back to life.
acid-like. Now, no bat was seen or captured during the expedition, but the echolocation's uniqueness was enough for its status to upgrade from extinct to critically endangered, with the dream being that somewhere out there, it is still kicking. And today,
Who the
it
hell
makes
is
up
dreaming
one
of
the
that?
25
Other than
most
a
wanted
nightmare, there should be nobody dreaming of that creature, bro.
lost species on the planet. And bats are not the only animals that originally survived into the modern age before eventually disappearing. Because, as you can probably guess, many birds match this criteria too.
Bro,
with
those
one
birds are
unique case,
tough, bro. I like those birds.
because as you can
They have like a specific sound that it sounds like so different from other birds. When you hear it, it's like, oh yeah, this is a good feeling. And they have like this little white like neck. It's like a beard, low-key. Like a weird. This shit look kind of tough, bro. In person, these birds are definitely tough.
probably guess,
I'll mess with
many
those birds
birds
for real.
match this criteria too, with one unique case being the Ninox albifacies, or
Is that
the
an
laughing
owl?
owl. Now,
Laughing
owls
owl.
in general are rather strange, funny-looking birds, yet as its name implies, the laughing owl was strange for reasons beyond looks. As the Maori and Europeans both reported that this owl found virtually everywhere in the past could make horrifying vocalizations akin to a maniacal laugh or dismal shrieks, giving the odd person or two
Yeah, I definitely heard some type of owls doing that shit, bro. If you out in the bush, out in the jungle, bro, you definitely hear some creepy noises. And if you heard a laughing, that would even be like even worse.
quite the heart attack, no doubt. And when not screaming, they were described as making a sound eerily similar to that of two grown men cooing to each other, which is oddly specific. And the strange noises
What?
ended up bringing the unwanted attention of researchers, who noted that it typically lived in rocky areas where rain was rare or in small forests. It was also described as being an extremely impressive and successful predator, eating virtually anything as long
There
as
we
it was
go
small
again.
enough.
That word, bro. Successful predator, best predator. Like, what are we doing? Keep that word for real predators, all right?
And thanks to pellets, we know that anything included bugs, small birds, lizards, tuataras, frogs, bats, and fish. And on top of this, it was said to be just about the only animal that brushed off the introduction of rats, even going so far as turning them into its new favorite prey, which helps explain how it remained so abundant even hundreds of years after Maori arrival. But if you go to New Zealand today, you'll notice no screaming,
Where's that? Where's that city? Is that Nelson? I don't know. It doesn't look like Nelson. But hey, that's a nice beach right there. I want to
scary
go
laughter, and no grown man cooing noises. At least not
there.
from
Really,
the
bro? What
animals.
is that?
So, what exactly happened to the owl? Well, while rats were no biggie, humans did eventually introduce more problematic creatures, namely stoats and cats. Originally, the idea was that these two would curb a feral rabbit infestation, but all they really ended up doing was causing a drastic fall in laughing owl numbers. And then in a 3-for-1 combo, the owls got flanked by both habitat loss due to farmland, and to researchers who became enamored with their vocalizations, making them a popular animal to capture and study. And by the 1880s, they had gone from everywhere to almost nowhere, being one of the rarest animals in all of New Zealand.
Huh.
And you'd assume this would make some people stop and think a moment about saving them. But no, life continued as usual, and when spotted, they were captured. So
When did like being extinct even come popular? Because a lot of people never really cared about that shit until the internet was invented, and they could actually know about. Oh, we need to keep this animal instinct or extinct. What is instinct is the opposite of extinct, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So to keep an animal instinct, like they needed more knowledge about the whole world and the whole thing. So I'm pretty sure no one even cared about that until like 20 years ago when the
surprisingly,
was
just a few
invented.
decades later, they were all but gone. And in 1914, the last record of one was made. A dead individual found along a road in Canterbury. This would make the last time anyone saw the creature dead or alive. Though similar to our last animals, unconfirmed reports did
It's
continue.
crazy how their face shape is a love heart. Like I always thought that was crazy. The love heart face shape.
Up until the 1940s,
It's kind of tough though.
and then even in the 1960s, when egg fragments apparently belonging to the owl were located nearly in the exact same spot as the last known specimen. But since then, nada. And for now, it's officially regarded as extinct. You would think, or hope, that this would be the end of the list. But no. And ultimately,
There's
loads of
more.
other animals died out, including
But why
the
did he not say the kiwi? Like the most
impressive
famous
bird,
one.
Isles harrier, an unusually large, harrier, who went for a long time misidentified as a giant hawk, before likely succumbing to the same reasons as the Haast eagle. And in the end, it wasn't just winged, or usually winged animals, that got burnt, as we also know of skinks, frogs, beetles, and even plants that
And
didn't make it to
kiwis.
today. And while there are more tragic stories than happy ones, not all of it is doom and gloom, as some, like the kakapo, an icon in New Zealand today, had a very rough history, and at one point even disappeared, but was eventually rediscovered and is now protected. A small win which can hopefully serve as a reminder not to take the amazing wildlife in New Zealand for granted. I mean, it's even home to one of the oldest species on the planet, the tuatara, who's been existing for 19 million years straight. And if you see
That's cap. That's cap.
my video on the
No,
hidden
it
timer
really
that
is,
kills
yeah.
every species,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah,
know why
yeah.
that's extremely impressive. And if you haven't, go check it out. Thanks for watching, and until next time on Extinct Zoo.
Alright, thank you, bro, for the history lesson. Did you learn anything? Because I did. I learned a lot in that 20 minutes that I've learned in my entire life. I have learned a lot. That was a very nice history lesson right there. Removed from